Hey there, welcome to Dear Romance Writer. We're three writers who always deliver happily ever afters, offer questionable advice for all of your relationship, work, and life problems. I'm Zio Axelrod.
I'm Avery Flynn.
And I'm Roan Parrish. We've got a great show for you today. Joining us is bestselling author Meghan Quinn. Welcome,
Yay.
Meghan. We're so happy to have you with us. Do you want to go ahead and tell everyone listening a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you guys for having me. I am a mother of two, 5-year-old and 3-year-old, and I live in Colorado Springs. What'd you say?
I said you're running with a 3 and a 5-year-old. Holy cow.
Yeah. 3 and 5-year-old,
Wow.
and they're adopted, and they're biological siblings, so full biological siblings. They love sliding across the floor, so knees on pants are absolutely demolished.
Yes.
We are buying new pants, I swear, every week. We even tried patching them, doesn't work. But besides the home life, I write romantic comedies, and I am a hybrid author. So I write with Montlake Romance, and then I also publish indie romance too.
Nice.
Very fun books, very beautiful covers. I love your covers.
Yeah.
They just, you do a great job on those. Yes. So we are really excited to have Meghan here with us to draw her into our chaotic fold today. And speaking of chaos, couple of things. Number one, I am super excited. Number one, because I'm old, so I actually remember when all of this happened. So you young kids. So Pamela Anderson, Tommy Lee made a sex tape for their private use many, many moons ago. If you don't know who they are, Pamela Anderson was like, at this point in time, the sex symbol in the United States. Tommy Lee, an amazing drummer with an insane band called Motley Crue. All right, so I guess that gives a backup. So his career basically, no offense, Tommy Lee,
Was done.
starting to putter out. Her career was kind of at its peak at this point in time. All right, they made a private sex tape. They had it in a safe. It was stolen. And back in the day, this was before you could get like a ton of like internet porn. So what they were doing is the people were making the tape. They were dubbing it, basically. Somebody would go and buy it, and they would mail them out. This is so old. They would mail them out a videotape, a VHS videotape of the stolen sex tape. All right. So it was all anyone could talk about. It was a huge scandal, huge story. All right. So Hulu, is it Hulu? I think it's Hulu. Maybe it's Peacock.
I think so. No, it's Hulu.
One of the two. One of the streaming services is
Peacock
doing.
Would never.
Yeah. They're doing a series. I thought it was just a movie, but it's called Pam and Tommy.
It's a series.
It's a series.
Oh wow.
Which I didn't realize until today. So
like mini-series, I'm guessing?
Yeah, like a limited
okay.
series thing. Okay. So Sebastian Stan is playing Tommy Lee, and he actually looks pretty close to it. And Lily James is doing Pamela Anderson, and whoever did her makeup and hair is chef's kiss, did a phenomenal job for it. They deserve every award. So it's getting ready to premiere. Number one, if you haven't seen what she wore to the premiere, I highly suggest you go to either Go Fug Yourself or Tom and Lorenzo, and you can see it. It is a trash heap. It is insanely garbage outfit. It's so bad. It's
Really?
worth seeing. Yes.
I don't even know who that is.
Lily James?
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
She's the daughter of
oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Who's her dad? It's the dad, isn't it? It's not Phil Collins. She's not Phil Collins.
No.
Oh, that's
wait,
Lily Collins.
No, hang on.
All right. Okay. Well, Zio looks that up.
Oh, I don't know who it is. I'm lying.
It is a trash heap of an outfit. But anyways, she's got a banging bod though. Oh my God. But anyways, so it was interesting to me because they are positioning this sort of in light of the Britney Spears documentary, in light of, like some of the past revisiting of scandals and saying how wrong we did the women involved in these instances, right? So they're trying to push it almost as if a way of giving Pamela Anderson back her agency. They're really pushing the fact that, yes, both Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee were in the sex tape that was stolen. It affected both of them, but it affected them completely differently because he's the stud and she's the slut is basically what it, boils down to. And I guess the argument is it had a very, very negative effect on her career. So
they need to do one on Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
Oh, Janet Jackson is getting her own documentary on it.
Good.
I saw that.
Because
There's also a podcast. There's a podcast episode, I think of You're Wrong about the situation.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I haven't listened to yet, but I'm curious because they usually do a great job of breaking down like all the cultural norms of why it's always the woman who gets. Yeah.
That's interesting. So they are positioning this as almost like a way for Pamela Anderson to reclaim, right? To get her agency back, to show it as sort of a how bad she was treated type of thing. Which I was, okay, I'm on board with. And then I'm reading, and supposedly, according to her, Pamela Anderson's people, she is completely re-traumatized by this.
Oh.
She was not involved in any of it. She did not approve the story being made. She didn't approve the script. She didn't, none of it. And, so for her, supposedly, according to the gossip, this is basically re-traumatizing because it's like this horrible, awful moment in time. And here she comes back at it. So I thought it would be kind of interesting. What are you guys, when you're looking at this, when does it become, as storytellers, when does it become a violation? And when is it a way to give somebody their agency back? Because we get inspired by real events.
Yes.
Or, we may get inspired, but where is that line?
If she
does it mean that we
shouldn't
support it? That people should think about that before they support it?
Yeah.
So there you go. That was really long, but that's my question.
Yeah.
If she didn't sign off on it, I don't know how you could say anything good about it being, oh, it's redemptive, it's whatever. Like she didn't agree to this. You know what I mean? If you want to write a story about how women are mistreated in scandals, do a fictionalized version of some other closely, you know what I mean? Like why do this? Especially if they knew, which I can't imagine they did this story without approaching either party and saying, hey, we're doing this thing. Just heads up.
Yeah, one of the articles I read said that, because I immediately fell down a rabbit hole when I saw that. See, this is what one bad outfit can do to me, right? Whole morning, gone left. But I guess the filmmaker said that they approached her and she was not interested in being involved. Tommy Lee also not involved, but I guess he has more of a Tommy Lee reaction to it, what I would think was a Tommy Lee reaction to it, where he's just like, well, I'm interested to see how that guy portrays me. And that's it.
Yeah, so. I agree with Zio wholeheartedly. Like that's a consent issue. And as people whose job it is to separate what's the line between something that is like sexy and challenging and pushes the boundaries and what's the line between non-consent, I feel like this is actually a great example. Like, does that mean that the film or the miniseries might not, like it might still do good in other ways? Like it can still, you can start a cultural conversation with a story that happened to one person, and that cultural conversation can have a positive impact. But you have to acknowledge that what you're saying is, I believe that sacrificing this one individual person's life is worth the gains that we will make politically, socially, and morally in society. And I think that what people often are unwilling to do is to admit to that calculus. But that's the calculus, is if someone is like, I don't consent to this, I don't want it to happen, I don't want to be involved, it's going to re-traumatize me. And they're like, okay, cool, I understand. But think of the good it'll do for so many other people. Then like, that's a choice that they can make. But I think then to go on and pitch it as something that's like about her redemption arc is absolutely fallacious and shameful, honestly.
Yeah. It is rough. Definitely, it's kind of crazy.
Kind of,
Megan, what do you
it's kind
think?
of like, well, it's kind of like The Crown, if you think about it. You guys seen that on Netflix?
Right.
You know, they take this storyline of the royal family and they say that it's fictionalized, but we're watching it and we know the history of everything that's going on, you know, and even at that, like, I can't imagine being William or Harry and watching it, and, you know, or I doubt that they do, but having all of that drama come back up again, like it can be very hurtful. So like, for me, if you're going to do something like a biopic, is that what it's called?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
I feel like there definitely needs to be consent, because I mean, they can say it's fictionalized all they want, but in reality, you know, it's bordering the line of being fiction and being true, because all of the events are very, very similar. So people are going to take it the way that they want to, and you're kind of like redeveloping a story that is not true.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. Like, I feel like we're in this interesting moment where, I don't know if y'all saw there's an article that was going around yesterday or today talking about the increase in books that are being optioned for film and TV since during the pandemic, streaming services are low on content and they're really willing to take more chances. It seems like,
by the way, I wish that for all of us.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. So mote it be. But yeah, I feel like there's a sense now, especially of this content vacuum where people want more and more and more content. And so these film folks are mining real life as the way they mine books to do adaptations. And they're like, oh, built-in audience, because these people watched it happen in real life. And I think that there's like, I'm all for journalism, I'm all for cultural criticism, but there is a big difference to me between cultural criticism where you make reference to things that happened and look at them in a greater context, and taking someone's actual real life, someone who's still alive, someone who is still involved with the people that this story is about, and saying, this is something that will make a great spectacle on TV, in the movies. Like, that's a choice that people make. And I think it's a pretty, it's a bold choice, no matter what your opinion about it is. And we just don't talk very much. I think some of us are primed to think that just because we know something happened, that means it's fair game for any amount of like circus tent erecting and 5 cents a person barking. But like, there are real people involved, and I have a hard time. Like, that would be my personal worst nightmare. No one wants to make a biopic about me, but I'm just saying, like, I know myself, and the idea that something that happened to me in real life would suddenly become hyper visible in the culture to the point where I wasn't able to live my life without thinking about it every day and being recognized for it would ruin my life. Like, it would ruin my mental health, my psychology, my ability to do the things I want to do in my life. And because I feel that way for myself, I just like, I cannot imagine deciding to do that to another person. I don't
It's interesting.
understand.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't understand the idea that like they did it with there was a film that came out a couple of years ago about David Bowie, and his estate didn't want anything to do with this film. They didn't want this film to happen, so much so that they refused to license any of his music to it. But the guy went ahead and made the film anyway. It got completely panned, and all of the reviews were like, why would you make a film? One, you know they don't want you to make it. Two, you can't make a film about David Bowie without having any Bowie music in it and think it's going to work. It's just such a strange thing. But the guy was like, yeah, well, I want to tell this story. It was like, that's not your story to tell. Like, they clearly don't want you to do it. So why do you think this is okay?
Why would you do it?
I never understood that.
Well, and I mean, even I wonder how much longer this type of thing is going to play out as like I mean, we've always done this type of thing, but to a greater extent because of social media. I mean, you see, like, remember back it was a Twitter thread a while ago. I don't know, COVID has completely messed with any sense of time I have in my head. Where it was the two people that met on the plane, and the person in the row
and they were live tweeting it.
Live tweeting the entire interaction. And at first you're like, oh my God, that's so cute. Oh, I totally root for him. And then, like, you start
And then you're
thinking
like,
about
oh,
it.
wait. Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a minute. And then we are all, to a certain extent, public figures, right? So we're out at a signing, right? You have a really bad day, you trip going down the escalator, whatever it may be.
Stop talking about me, Avery.
Yeah. That becomes fodder, right? And you can make the argument, well, it happened in public, blah, blah, blah. But then you also have to think about the fact that, well, who does it impact? It's almost like the TikToks where the whole joke of the TikTok is, oh yeah, this is the crackhead in my neighborhood. And it is somebody who is obviously battling addiction and obviously in the middle of some bad shit.
People are making TikToks about drug addicts in their communities and it's supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
They do all kinds of, yeah.
That's disgusting.
So, I mean, I think as a society, we have to figure out where is that public, private, doesn't need to be for mass consumption line. And I think it's harder now maybe than it used to be because of social media and things like that. It's much easier to get it out there. Before I would tell you and you and you, and now I could just tell everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everybody's getting that book deal for that unauthorized biography. They can just go on TikTok and do.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Anyway, so that was my chat topic for today. And all of that is a good one by one of the ugliest outfits I've ever seen in my life. So again, go look at this outfit. It's so bad. Okay. It is to go with.
Did you say go fuck yourself?
Yes, I love them.
Okay, I have to find that because I've never heard of that one.
Okay. Yeah. So we should probably get to the point of the whole podcast.
Yeah, let's get to the letter.
Our advice letters. Folks, as
now
always,
for something completely different.
Yeah, now for something, actually related. We invite you guys to reach out with your questions about relationships, friendships, cruise ships, whatever kind of ships you need help with, including fictional ships. I am totally into that. Yes. So yeah, we'll give advice on it all.
Yeah, I just Googled the dress, by the way.
Isn't it hideous?
So it's like a jacket where pieces have been cut out on top of a dress.
Where pieces have been cut out. And it's not, it's bad with the jacket on, but the jacket off is even worse. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to bring us back to the ranch. We're going to do a letter, damn it. All right. Please, y'all, send in your letters. You can send them in anonymously via our website. You can also send them to us in DMs and social media, all the good stuff. We would love to hear from you. Until we do, we're going to keep stealing from other people. But we credit it. All right. So today's letter comes from Love Letters. And it says, my husband and I have been married a really long time. We are approaching a new phase in life where our kids are moving out. You almost graduated. Our kids are moving out. I mean, they may move back in because we can't predict anything in life anymore, but we are experiencing a new kind of freedom. I love my husband and we have a great relationship. One of the most important things to me is the feeling that he really knows and understands me. That security is my rock. I love how he thinks of me and will send me texts during the day or pick up dinner on the way home when he knows we're both too tired to cook, or a million other things that we've built over the past decades of being together. But we went into the pandemic with teenagers who still relied on us for everything. As we come out of COVID, they are independent adults about to leave for college. It is such a drastic change that I feel the empty nest phase almost snuck up on me, and I'm not prepared. Being a mom was everything, and that is changing. I want to go out and try new things, meet new people, and make some non-parent friends, find a new hobby. My husband does not. The thought exhausts him. I want to do this together, but he isn't willing. I don't want to change who he is, but feel a little compromise would go a long way. Do you have any suggestions of how I can approach this with him so he understands how much this means to me? I want to grow closer together, and if I do this without him, I fear we will just grow apart. Signed, Empty Nesting. Well, first off, hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what say you, panelists?
That sounds hard. I mean, I
Yeah.
am not a parent, and so the empty nest thing is not something that I have like any particular insight into in its specificity, but I do feel like we can all relate to being part of a relationship and then some external circumstance to that relationship changes. And then like the context for your relationship has changed. And I think that that can be a really destabilizing feeling for people, but also depending on how you are oriented toward change, like a really exciting one. And it sounds like this letter writer is in the exciting camp and her husband is in the scary and destabilizing camp. And that's like a mindset issue, you know, like partly it's maybe she's an extrovert and he's an introvert, or she is more excited about newness and change than he is. But I also think like he clearly is not in a place where he's ready to see it as exciting. And so when she says like, I don't want to change who he is as a person, it's like, well, you do actually, and that's not a bad thing. Like you want to change his mindset around change. And that's like, sometimes you can do it and sometimes you can't, but I do think it's super important to acknowledge what you actually want. You know, it's pat to say like, I don't want to change who he is as a person. I just wish we could compromise on these 7 things and he would do them all differently. And I'm like, it's not bad to say
I have that list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad to say that you wish someone would change as long as you acknowledge that you can't make them. Like that's not, I feel like people treat that like a cardinal sin of relationships, like admitting that someone does things that you wish they wouldn't do, but she obviously does want him to change. And until she acknowledges that, I think it's going to be hard to like have a conversation about it, which is obviously what they need to do. I'll be my own broken record and be like, they need to sit down and have a conversation where she says, these are the reasons I feel really excited about meeting new people, about getting new hobbies, etc. When I like think about that, it makes me feel expansive, capacious, excited. How does it make you feel? And then when he says, it makes me feel like I don't have any energy for it, it's so much work, it's then they can actually like start breaking down those feelings and talking about what things she can do without him, what things he might want to do that are about making new friends, maybe that aren't quite as extroverted or social. But yeah, until they have a conversation about it and both of them admit what they actually want, it seems like you're just kind of swimming in the dark.
Yeah, I also wonder like how he feels about her going out and doing something without him. If that's like, because that whole thing about it'll make us grow apart is an interesting thing to say. You know, if you're going out to dinner with friends, or if you're going to a movie with a movie club or something like that, like why would that pull you apart? You know what I mean? So there was some interesting things in there that makes me feel like she has approached this, and then the whole line about him saying it makes him feel exhausted. That's a very extreme reaction to just saying, hey, let's go find some cool things to do. You know what I mean? So there's a lot I feel like there's stuff between the lines here that we're not getting.
Yeah, totally.
My wife is trying to communicate me through with me through the door, and so I'm like trying to listen and like
that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
No worries, we can get her advice too.
What we do, yeah.
I know, right? I'm a little confused, and blame it on the like plotting brain that I'm in the midst of writing right now. But so she wants to do new things, and he doesn't necessarily feel comfortable doing that. Is that the general idea?
I think so,
that's kind of what I'm getting for that. The vibe I'm getting from it is that she is like trying to panic Phil, right? She's got, you know, she's so used to having the kids, and like Meghan, you've got 2 kids, so it, especially at 3 and 5, you've got to be there for everything. Mine are older, but it's still like, I thought it would slow down, but it doesn't. There is so much activity that happens when you have kids, and everything is centered around that. So to all of a sudden not have that, I think she is panic feeling time. So she doesn't have to feel her feelings. And I totally identify with that. So that's the vibe I'm getting from it, Meghan. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like she needs to feel.
Yeah, my parents are actually kind of in this new realm of life where they're going to move out here to Colorado, and they live in New York right now, but they're going to move out here, and you'd be a family and stuff. But I remember when I'm the youngest, not only child, only girl. I have 2 older brothers. But I remember when my brothers left, they left at the same time. And then I was left. And I remember the transition of my mom clinging on to me as tightly as she could. And when I left, it was traumatizing to her because she was a stay-at-home mom. That's what she did. And so when I went to college, she was absolutely traumatized. And my parents had to, I remember my mom talking to me about it. They kind of had to like develop this new relationship, because you kind of focus your relationship around your kids and raising them. And then once we all left, they had to learn each other again. They had to learn who they were. They had to kind of go about finding new things. They joined new clubs and, went about it that way. And I think it's almost, you can't necessarily pressure someone, your partner, just because, everyone kind of deals with everything in their own aspect. And, but like, Rowan, that's how you say your name.
No worries.
Hey, this is why we ask. You're
I know, right?
I made you pronounce Meghan Quinn. So
I know. Like you said, you kind of just have to like reintroduce yourself and let everyone go at their own pace. And then hopefully you can kind of find each other again. And I mean, I'm sure that's what's going to happen with me and my wife when my kids get older, because at this point, everything, like Avery, you were saying, everything's so focused and centered around your kids that like 7 o'clock rolls around and the kids are in bed and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? It's nice to see you today. Like to my wife, like you don't know. And so no, I could totally relate to that. I mean, my kids are still really young, but I can relate to that. Almost losing your identity and trying to find it again and find it within your partner. And I think it just takes time and a little understanding.
Yeah. I love that she's excited to try new things.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that he isn't.
Well,
but who knows?
I have a theory. Okay. Okay. So number one, I agree. We need more information. But beyond the just introvert extrovert thing, I think some people get very over, and the change, you get overwhelmed. I always think of it almost like, okay, my youngest is 13, right? His room, oh my God. Number one, smells weird. Number two is such a wreck, right? All of the time. And I tell him to go clean it, and it is so overwhelming. And it was worse when he was younger. So overwhelming because it's like, where do you start? It's like starting a book. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden you are like completely overwhelmed. If I look at you and say, Zio, 300 pages, a month and a half, make it happen, right? You would melt down. You would melt down. So I wonder how much of that is an impact here. It's not wanting to do things, but just that overwhelm.
The idea is exhausting.
Of a complete change in things. So that's number one. Number two, I wonder about like work from home or work close to home and a big commute. Now I'm outside of DC. My husband commutes. He leaves our house at the ungodly hour, 5:30 in the morning to get to work every day. So, and that's to avoid as much commute traffic as possible. So that happens. And, he gets home. It was worse when the kids were younger, like yours are, Megan, because I've worked from home almost our entire marriage. So he comes home and I'm like, and the guy's like, holy shit. It's a little I'm overwhelming, period, let alone leave me with, little humans that don't really talk. And it's a lot. So, that too could be an issue with it, where maybe, and especially if she's trying to avoid feeling her feelings, which I totally get, by doing as much things as possible and having every idea that there may be to fill that time, that all he's hearing is the if I was her best friend and she came to me with this, my recommendation would be, honest to God, take this letter to him. This is such a lovely letter.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
It
you
is.
see how much love there is still in this relationship. You can feel the fact that she is so nervous and weirded out. He is also nervous and weirded out. She gets that. But yeah, I agree, Roan. She's asking for him to change, right? He is very uncomfortable with that. So, number one, my recommendation would be to take this letter to him. Number two part, because I love things that are in steps, is to do something small at first. It doesn't have to be the whole book the first day, right? So figure out what that small thing is that he enjoys that you can do. Let's say he likes to go play shuffleboard at the local dive bar. All right. Say, hey, let's make Tuesday night shuffleboard and beer night. Right? Make it about something that he enjoys so that you guys get into that practice of that. Number one. Or number two. And my number three piece of advice is not for her, but for all the other married people or people in relationships with this, and especially if you've got kids. It is so easy for your entire marriage to then circle around those kids because they take so much care and so much attention and so much effort and so much time. We love them, but yes, it's a lot. That I am a huge fan of standing weekly dates or monthly dates or when you can get them in, even if it's just in the house. Like we have done through COVID a ton of like movie nights. We just did one the other night where we kicked the kids to the basement or the room and said, go away. We're watching this movie. The movie was horrible. I don't recommend Power of the Dog. But
I was curious about that one.
You know what? I think I'm too old, too tired, and too done to spend 2 hours with somebody who's just an awful person, even if they're fictional. So that's just kind of where I am in my journey. If you like that, you'll probably love it because the acting was wonderful. Cool. But don't wait until you are a complete empty nester. Try and build even just small things that you do together so that you still keep that couple togetherness.
Yeah, it's really interesting because one of the things that I was wondering was, since you're talking about like, I mean, we have to acknowledge there's like a difference between what motherhood means and what fatherhood means in society. Like the pressure is different on those two roles. And one of the things that I'm wondering about the letter writer is she scared because she feels like when they had the kids and that was sort of like the magnet that held them together, like they had to be together. They had to do things together because these kids needed them. And is she actually worried that she's worried about like not having this role anymore? But I wonder also if she's worried that once those kids aren't there to hold them together, if she goes off and is making new friends and doing things, and he's going off and making new friends and doing things and they're not together, is she like insecure that their relationship will fall apart once they don't have that center of the kids? And if she is, that is understandable to me, but I also feel like it's great to make friends that aren't mutual friends. Like mutual friends are great too, but one of the things that I've enjoyed most in the last couple of years is like my girlfriend has a totally different friend group than me, and so like slowly meeting her friends and learning like, oh, tell me about her when she was 15, or like all those things. That's really fun. But then making new friends together, sometimes you don't vibe with the same people, and so we've met people and like she's really liked them and I've been like, great, cool, hang out with them, I'll be at home, or vice versa. And it's
just that's like, because you like 4 people.
That's correct.
I'm one of them.
Yes.
I'm claiming that victory.
What are you talking about? I am the most social person you've ever met in your life. No, but yeah, I think it's like, it's not, it doesn't have to be scary to make your own friends and do things that, in fact, I think it's like, if you're used to having kids to talk about, if you do everything together, you won't have anything to talk about. Whereas if you go off and like start a new hobby, like start whittling, and your husband is like, cool, I'm going to start playing like some massive multiplayer online game at home, and I talk to people through my headset. Then when you get home after your individual things, you're like, hey, what's up? What'd you do today? And you can actually talk about the things that you did. You can ask each other questions. So I think it's awesome to have things that aren't all the same. Otherwise, it's like you're BFFs forever and do everything together, but don't have the individual personalities that make it like hot to be a couple. You know, like you don't want to date your sister. I mean, you want to date my sister. She's great, but she, she's not on the market. So.
That's different. Yeah. Megan, what were you going to say? She's like, what were you going to say? I thought you were going to say something before.
I was going to say something and then I completely forgot what it was. It was my wife and I, in order to do something that like connects each other, we do things like Hunt a Killer. Have you guys heard of that?
I've wanted to play that. It looks so fun.
What is this?
It's a subscription box basically, and they send you every 6 months. They have a new mystery that you have to solve, and they send you clues every month, and you have to like figure out the clues in that box and every month, and then at the end you figure out like what the mystery is.
So cool.
So,
that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I mean, we have a little bit of a backlog just because we moved to a new house and things got a little crazy, but it's one of our favorite things to do. We absolutely love it. And just like you could always like plan for like game nights on certain nights, because I know sometimes you kind of get into the swing of like, oh, what show are we going to watch tonight once the kids are, asleep or whatever. But you could be like, tonight it's puzzle night, get ready. Just do like little things here and there. And I totally agree with the going off on your own too, because if you're not doing stuff for yourself, then you're actually hurting everybody around you, because you need that self-time. Yep. So I 100% agree that you need to do things by yourself as well.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
And I think one of the things that would be really fun if you're like, how when you're dating someone, you do the getting to know you thing. And there's a certain point in a relationship where like, obviously you're still learning about each other, but you're learning through experience rather than self-description. You go out on a date and you're like, what's your favorite color? What's your sign? What's your whatever people do on dates? But now you're like 20 years away from dating. You've both changed so much. It would be so fun to redate. Like you could go out on a first date and be like, okay, let's pretend we're just meeting for the first time. And I bet the ways that you would describe yourselves, the things that you value that you would connect on are actually different than the ones when you first started dating. And that could be a way to sort of like make a new connection and reintegrate as a couple based on how you are now.
That's a really great idea.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm actually going to steal that idea.
You should.
We're going to be 22 years this year. So
do it.
And it's funny because I always like to, think in my head, I haven't changed at all.
I hope you have, Avery. 22 years.
Yeah, I haven't changed at all. It's all him. He's the one that's different than the guy I married. But you look at it and you're like, no, things change. You grow, you learn as a person, you do all sorts of things. It's just idiotic to think that you wouldn't have I'd really be petrified of, quite frankly, of the person who has no personal growth in 2 decades.
Yeah.
So I actually love that idea. That would be really fun. I mean, it sounds very touchy-feely. So both my husband and I are already going like this, but it does seem.
It doesn't have to be.
I like this idea.
I think it could be like as touchy-feely as you wanted to make it. Like one of the things. Yeah. Okay, so
plus you could look at it as role playing. So then it could be about the spark.
There you go. But also it could be taking BuzzFeed quizzes together, like, okay, so the other day, Timmy and I, so I'm still, for anyone who's not watching, I'm still sitting on the floor in a very cold apartment in New York as my lovely partner recovers from surgery. And so we've been doing a lot of things that are like, let's take this BuzzFeed quiz, let's do this thing. Cause you're just like lying around all day. And so the other day we took some BuzzFeed quiz that's like, tell us how you rate these 65 cakes and we'll tell you the date you'll get married. Obviously there's no touchy-feely, like there's no meaning behind it. It's totally random. So we independently took the quiz and we both found that we're going to get married on December 27th of this year. Now, keep in mind,
no pressure.
Neither of us have any interest in getting married, like period, much less to each other. And so, but we both got this from BuzzFeed. So like, obviously it's going to happen. Like BuzzFeed knows all. And so I put it in we have a shared Google calendar.
Oh my God.
I put it in our calendar.
Whole book in my head.
I know, right? So like
this is a friends to lovers trope right here.
Yeah. So like something is going to happen in our lives that will make us getting married on December 27th, like necessary or meaningful in some way. And I will look back at this moment and be like, oh my God, our cake rating was like fated our lives. But it's just like a fun way, I think, to look at like, oh, what did you think of cake number 7? Or, like, even if the thing doesn't matter, it's all about like expressing yourself and your feelings and your likes and your opinions to someone else so that they can know you more deeply in the way that you are right now. So I think like for you, Avery, it doesn't have to be super touchy feely. It could be like, take one of those weird BuzzFeed quizzes, or like do any of the kind of pick an am I the asshole letter and like both answer it, write it down, and then compare. Like, I don't think it has to be first dates where you're like, and then my mother died at age 7 and I've never been the same. It can be like, we're getting tacos. What's your favorite margarita flavor? And then that reminds you of a story and you tell a story, so it can just be like fun.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff. Yeah. I like that. I also now want to read Friends to Lovers, Marriage of Convenience. That is also going to get super placement in BuzzFeed. So like sponsorship. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'll say it on Twitter, and because it's about myself, it won't be exploitative, and then they can partner with me if they'd like to.
I'll exploit you, baby. All right. Yeah.
I will exploit myself. Thank you.
All right. Fine.
Well, hopefully they can sit down and have a chat about their new life together and come to some sort of agreement, because it sounds like they have a really great base. And I think you're right, Roan. I think there is a bit of hesitation to shake the boat too much. She's like, we've got this great thing. If I push too hard or if I go too far, I could unravel it. Right. And I think that, I think it's
change is weird even when you think you're embracing it.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking. Either way.
It could just be that he's like, look, this house has been so noisy for 20 years. I'm just looking forward to some quiet. What I mean? That just could be his response right there. You know what I mean? He's like, more stuff? No. You know what I mean?
And it's the middle of a pandemic. Like, I totally understand that making a whole new set of friends sounds really exhausting. If you're like, cool, we can't breathe the same air, eat food, or be within 6 feet of each other. So let's like go fly model airplanes on a windy beach and yell at each other. Like, the options are limited. And I do think that sounds exhausting in a way that maybe it wouldn't if it weren't the middle of a pandemic.
True. Point.
Sure. Oh, goodness.
Well, that was awesome. Hopefully empty nesting will find what she's looking for. But I wanted to move into the chat topic because we've been like chatty today. This is good.
We have been.
Megan's kind of looking at us like, what are you guys doing? But this is what we do. This is how we roll. Finger guns. So today's chat is because finger guns? Did that get you, Avery? So today's chat was an Am I the Asshole post that went viral a little bit ago, and I had to try to like condense this down for you guys. So basically there was a woman who was in trouble with her sister, or with her whole family, because she ruined something called an apology dinner. And there was a whole like thing about like, what the heck is an apology dinner? And someone was like, you must not be from the Midwest. So I wanted to ask Avery if that is a thing in the Midwest before I go further.
Never heard of this thing. I'm from the passive aggressive part of the Midwest. You would mess up. We would talk about you for the rest of your life, but we would never acknowledge it to your face.
Well, the mother of this woman does something to her sister, insults her, does something that they get into a fight. And the mom's like, I will make an apology dinner, which is a thing apparently in this part of the world. And then she doesn't do it. She tells her other daughter to do it. She's like, I can't be bothered. I'm going to go write my apology speech. You do all the cooking. You make all the arrangements. And so dutiful daughter does, and has the wrong food or the wrong time or something like that. And it pisses off her sister. And she's like, why did you do this? This was mom supposed to do this. And you just, so like a whole thing. Okay. And I was like, this is the strangest thing I've ever heard. But what is the best way? Like, how do you guys, when you screw up, apologize? Apology dinner? Do you cook a nice meal?
Why are you even thinking that I mess up? I number one.
In the rare occasion that you might possibly.
I might have a dream where I mess up, I think the hardest thing about apologizing, especially if it's like you were in the wrong, right? Mm-hmm. I think there are times when you mess up and you don't mean to, and you apologize, right? I think those are I don't personally, I find those easier to do. I think sometimes when you do something and because you're a petty person and and you realize, you know what, that was not the best. I think those are hard to
Yeah.
have. I think those are more personally difficult because it's not just I messed up, it's an I was purposefully did something here. So and I think the gut reaction in those situations is to try and justify. I did that because of this, but I realized it was wrong. But if you hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have done this. And so I think that's, to me, I think whether it's something you meant to do or something you didn't mean to do or something you did on purpose, the biggest part of an apology is not trying to rationalize it. Is just to simply be sincere and say, I am sorry, I shouldn't have done that, or I didn't, wasn't my intention to do this to you, whatever it may be, but to not try and rationalize it. And another thing is, I think I grew up in a household where the adults did not apologize to the kids ever. Right. And obviously the adults messed up at some point in time, you do. So that's been a big thing in our house is, sometimes I have a quick temper, and so being able to turn around to my kids and say, I'm sorry, I snapped, wasn't your fault. I shouldn't have done that. But to be able to model that behavior with my kids, I think is important too, even though I still hate apologizing. I don't know anybody who doesn't, but yeah. So that would be my advice on apologizing.
I love that. Like, especially with social media, people say things, especially on Twitter, they'll say something and people will go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. That was horrible. Especially when it's like something offensive. And you get those two types of apologies. One is the, oh my gosh, thank you for calling me out on that. I'm learning, whatever. And then you get the, well, I'm sorry you were offended by what I said. You know what I mean? Which is not an apology, right? So yeah, so I feel like we need apology lessons in this age of social media because people really do not know how to apologize. And cooking a dinner, maybe, I don't know, but
yeah, I think that's the apology dinner is funny because it's a what would you call it, like a formalized response, when I was in 4th grade, my wonderful teacher had a big poster on the wall that said choices equal consequences. And in this case, it's like in this family or in this area, which I've also never heard of this apology dinner thing. Like, it's like, if you mess up, then what has already been decided is that an apology dinner will make it okay. It's almost like serving a certain prison sentence, and then the thing will be stricken from your record or something. And it's interesting because it seems like that is a thing that all the parties have to agree will make it better. So like the person who offended, the person who was upset, all the people involved have to already agree that, like, if you do the apology dinner, then everything is probably okay. Or at least on the way to being okay. But to me, that's like,
or at least on the surface level, okay.
Right. At least on the
surface. You have to wonder like how many
anymore.
times whatever it is comes up again. Like after.
Right. Yeah. It's like paying someone when you offend that, like putting $1 in the swear jar. You're like, if I'm going to do a thing, I know this will be the consequence. I'm willing to pay it so I can do the thing anyway. And I think for me, that kind of like rote one size fits all apology would be meaningless if that's why someone was doing it. And so I think to me, like the most important thing about an apology both as someone who is apologizing and someone being apologized to is that it's personal and specific, like both to me or the other person, but also to the thing that happened. So like, sure, just saying I'm sorry is a good start, but I think anything that isn't kind of taking into account specifically how that thing hurt this specific person, to me doesn't really feel very genuine, because it feels like you believe that what you've done is capital W wrong, like in a Nietzschean sense or something, like no, there are wrong things that can happen. And it's like, there aren't maybe moral absolutes. There's the understanding that like this thing that you did hurt a specific person in a specific way. So why would you give them a kind of one size fits all apology when actually, if what you're trying to do is repair damage to your relationship, you have to do an apology that suits the wrong and the hurt, like specifically, which would just look different for every person. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never fun to have to apologize. I think that, you know, the whole we write a lot of groveling scenes in our books. There's a lot of, you know, there's the dark moment, and then you have, you know, the come to Jesus moment, like, oh, I messed up, I gotta fix it, you know what I mean? And can you imagine like your character just having a dinner and inviting all of your family and friends to watch you read a speech with your apology?
Oh my God.
Like that would be so, I don't know.
I dare someone to write it though.
It's
About
kind
you,
of cringy.
Yeah, I know.
super cringy. Super
I
cringy.
honestly, apologizing is a hard thing that I've learned to deal with. I'm an Enneagram 3. I don't know if you guys do Enneagram or whatever, but I am like, you know, the 3 knows everything. So apologizing is okay. So my wife is a like 6, and she is so, and 6 is like someone, like their best present you can get them is a Ring camera. So like security wise, she's so like psychotic. But anyways, apologizing, I've learned over time, especially within, you know, a relationship, and then within being an author and owning your own business, is that you really, what it comes down to is sucking up your pride, putting it to the side, and understanding what the person is saying to you. And so even as an author, you know, I have done some things, very few, but, you know, I've written something that has maybe triggered somebody, or said something casually on like a live feed that might have offended somebody. And I will get messages from those people. And I've seen in like, you know, different groups and stuff, people are like, can you believe this person wrote me this and blah, blah, blah. And they're like going off about it. And I'm like, stop for a second, put yourself in their shoes and understand why that this person is triggered this way. And so I got one a little while back, and I can't remember what they said, but it was I read it and immediate the defense went up. And I was like, how dare they? And I was like, hold on. No, like there's a reason why they sent this, and they were hurt by it somehow. I need to sit back and be like, I'm so sorry. I will try better next time. And that's what I do. I will do better, you know? And I think that's all we can really ask from people. I mean, an apology dinner, man, if I got in a fight with my wife and she rolled out an apology dinner, I would be like, thank you. This is wonderful. But I wouldn't necessarily require it. You know, with me and her, it's just a simple hug and I'm sorry. And then we can move on. But I really think it comes down to setting that pride aside, because everybody just wants to be right, you know, especially in like today's world, you know, of so many conflicting opinions. Everyone wants to be right about something. And so I think it's just setting that pride aside and just doing a very genuine apology.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about like love languages. You know, we talked about love languages sometime last year. And like, if your love language with your partner or partners is to do things for them, like dinners or bring flowers or whatever it is, or watch a movie together, whatever, if that's part of your apology and it's a very personal thing, I think that's great. The idea of like gathering your entire immediate family together is such a weird concept. Like, it's almost like, it reminds me of like, I don't know if you remember Game of Thrones, like Shame, like the Shame scene where like walking down the street, all the villagers come out and they're like, Shame. Like, that's what it reminds me of. It's
like a public humiliation.
It is. Is.
I see that. But I will say this, although I think it sounds not for me, I'll put it that way, is I get the sort of standard operating procedure clearness of it. All right. This is when my, you know, loves organization, loves bends, loves spreadsheets, loves being a Virgo comes in handy, right? I like knowing if step A happens, you know, you've got your little choice. Did you do this? Go this way. Did you do this? Go this way, right? So I do appreciate the standard operating procedure of it, and the not leaving somebody wondering what is what is my clear response, right? This is coming from somebody who still does not understand the rules of when I am supposed to bring a housewarming gift to somebody if I go to their house for drinks. Like, I am still very confused by this. So I appreciate any help anybody can give. So I'm about to go to somebody's house and I'm really stressed out.
Bring an edible.
I'm gonna bring Girl Scout cookies.
Bring something that can
them.
be consumed. That's always good.
There you go. Okay. All right. So I did well. All right.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for.
But no, I appreciate that. I know what you mean.
That. But but what happens is it loses the sincerity factor when it becomes done because that's the thing to do, not because I am sincerely sorry for what happened and I want to show this to you. Right. Now, can you have an apology dinner and do that? Yes. But again, it is your motivation behind what you're doing. If I'm only having the dinner because I have to have the dinner, because that's step 6 in the get my mom to stop yelling at me phase, then, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
Do you think an apology dinner is the same as any other dinner in terms of the conversation? Or do you think the whole dinner is just spent in like watching the person apologize and then their apology be received? Because I feel like I would sneak food into my napkin and go to the bathroom.
If I remember correctly from this letter, and Zio, correct me, it was like an event. It's almost like a formalized program of what is supposed to happen, how the apology was to be made, how the apology was to be accepted.
Yeah.
And to go from there.
And whatever happened, it wasn't the ideal circumstances for the sister to receive the mom's apology because mom didn't prepare the dinner.
Right.
It was very
there were
tribal.
a lot of
it was very
and regulations.
Yeah.
A lot of rules and regulations with it.
But it was definitely like everyone here is an asshole except for the woman who prepared the meal because like mom was an asshole, the sister was an asshole. Like it was just like, yeah, you guys
just apologize and be sincere. Moral of the story.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write an apology dinner in my next book, honestly.
Yes, do it.
It's a way to win a heroine over, right?
Yes.
I always think that a situation like that would be the most fun anthology or something, because you can start off at the apology dinner and then everybody breaks off, and because that's the opening and everybody's like, oh my God, what was that?
That would be so fun.
Or if everyone there thinks they're the one being apologized to for something.
I like that. That's like a little Agatha Christie mixed in with it. I like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Maybe it turns into a locked room mystery. The apology dinner, someone gets poisoned and then they have to figure out who done it.
And then you find out it was the subscription box all along. See, we came full circle.
It was a caterer. I did all your weddings and you all,
Nobody tipped. Yeah, cheap bastards. Yes.
Oh man.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, I feel like we've exhausted this topic for the moment. I'm sorry for bringing this topic. No, I'm apologizing. I'm apologizing for. Well, I'll take my dinner when I get back to Philadelphia. But no, I thought that was really fun, and I liked the way our topics interwove, because it was really kind of all about like different people having different expectations and sometimes that going awry, and I was into it. Anyway, that was amazing. Meghan, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you. Do you want to remind everyone, like, where can we find you on social media? Do you have a book that you'd like to direct people toward? All that stuff.
Yeah. So I have 2 books kind of floating about right now. Put Me in Detention, which is a teacher romance.
Oh yes.
It's popular.
With the hot dude on the cover.
Yeah. Guy has a piercing that seems to be talked about often. An eggplant piercing, if you know what I mean.
An eggplant. That's up.
Yeah,
Prince
and
Albert?
so he.
Am I? My old lady correct? Okay.
Jacob Slatter. And so that one's doing great. And then A Not So Meet Cute is also one of my top releases, which is kind of like a modern day twist on Pretty Woman, minus the like hooker part. So absolutely love that one. And then the reunion comes out in February, and the reunion, you guys, it has 6 point of views in it.
Nice.
And
Ooh, fun.
Oh, I love it.
they're all intertwined because it's 3 siblings and then their love interests. And all of their stories are like meshed together. If you kind of like the Family Stone, then you would definitely like this book. So
Roan's all into that, yeah.
February 22nd.
I love that movie. That sounds so
Wait,
good.
I have to ask a technical writer question. How stressful was it to intermesh all of that? And I would assume that since you did that you are a plotter and not a pantser.
Don't hate me. I'm a pantser.
How did you even do that? That made my whole head explode. I'm so stressed out for you right now.
It's so weird because like I really black out. I black out when I write. And so when I'm writing someone's point of view, immediately I'm like, okay, like Ford is the older brother. He's the uptight one, business guy, very formal. And so I'm writing him. I'm kind of in this mindset of like, you know, how a formal person would speak. And then Cooper is more of the like goof. He's the middle child. He's the screw up, you know, so he kind of has this like, who gives a crap attitude. And then the younger sister is, you know, the freelance free girl, you know, kind of doing whatever she wants to do. And so whenever I guess just whenever I'm in that point of view, I remember what character I'm writing and I just go for it. But honestly, I wrote this book in 3 weeks and with 6 point of views, and my agent was like, how? I'm like, I honestly, like, I would wake up at 5 and I would write from 5 to 7, and I would get 3,000 words done, and I would be in the complete dark because it was last January that I was writing it. And so it's, you know, still dark out in the morning.
I love that.
And my wife would walk out into the living room because I'd just park my spot in the living room. And there's no lights on. It's the computer screen. I have my headphones on and I'm like, this. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I found my spot. Don't judge me. So,
you know what?
Yeah,
the process
I'm really
is so
really
sexy.
Trust
so
the
glamorous,
process.
you
Trust the
know?
process.
right? I mean, no bra, the like matching long john pajamas on, just hair like askew. Great.
It's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
But if I talk a lot to readers on Instagram. So if people want to talk on Instagram, I'm Meghan Quinn Book. And so that's pretty much it.
And you said February. What
Awesome.
date does that come out?
February 22nd. And like, you guys, this cover, look at it.
Ooh,
Pretty.
I
That's
love
gorgeous.
those colors.
yeah. Guys, go to
and it's
YouTube so you can see this cover.
Yeah, it's published with Motley. So I'm super, super excited.
That's
And it
awesome.
looks like it weighs about 25 pounds, y'all. You
Yeah.
are getting
It
your
is
6 POVs
So,
worth.
yeah, it's so, I got this in and I was like, this is not what it's supposed to look like. This is the ARC, but it's going to have like a pretty like matching back. But when I got this, I was like, oh my God. And they're like, go ahead, mail them to whoever you want. I'm like, yeah, like that's not going to be
$27.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, I
But-
mean, you shouldn't do this, but it would kill the hell out of a spider. It is a great.
Yeah, but I love it. So hopefully everyone else will too.
Awesome.
Yay.
That sounds awesome. So everyone should go check it out, and it will be out in February. Meghan, thank you again so much for having us. That is all for this episode of Dear Romance Writer. We'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. Author Naima Simone will be with us. And
She's
until
awesome.
then,
Oh my God.
yeah, I'm very excited. Am I saying that right, Naima?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Until then, just remember, send us your questions. We would love to answer them. You can go to dearromancewriter.com and fill out our anonymous form there to send in your questions, or you can hit us up on any of our social media platforms. So we cannot wait to offer you more dubious but well-intentioned advice from this trio of happily ever after enthusiasts. Thanks so much for watching / listening.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you so much for subscribing to Dear Romance Writer. Remember to keep sending in those letters at dearromancewriter.com. We can't wait to tell you what to do. Dear Romance Writer is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love, frolic.media/podcasts.